Hello there, a fine day to everyone. My name is Nick and we're going to do the 2-week roundup. Yeah, that's weird. What country are we at this time? Because as you know, we always do these live. Yes, definitely live from a different country throughout the world each 2 weeks to make it a little bit interesting. Well, that's the aim anyway, give it a bit of contrast. Well, this time we're coming live from Switzerland. It's a mountainous Central European city that, or country I should say, that always likes to keep itself a little bit neutral. Small population of just over 8 million. Languages they speak are German, French, Romanian and Italian. Now I always used to think that the capital of Switzerland was Zurich, but apparently it's Bern. According to the internet, I'd imagine that's correct. And I'm coming to you, as you may have guessed, from the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, better known as CERN. You know, I don't think it's very safe to stand in the world's largest particle physics accelerator. Yeah, I think they send one atom one way, another atom another way at the speed of light and they crash into each other. So if you was actually caught in the tunnel at the same time, you'd probably be obliterated. It's a little bit chilly up here. Behind me is the Matterhorn, which borders Switzerland and Italy. We're up in the Alps and I believe we're over 4,000 metres above sea level. Brilliant. Well, at least it beats being destroyed to pieces by a Hadron Collider and having all your molecules stripped to their bare bones. Is it? Maybe. Anyway, before we come to the top 6, let's look at the pinball tables we look at this week. Oh, the last 2 weeks. In Season 2 of the Pinball Arcade. The first one was Cue Ball Wizard. Bit of an unusual table this one, but fun all the same. It's got Clint Eastwood's voice all the way through, and essentially you must do various trick shots by hitting the ball up the ramp on the right hand side there. I'm not sure if it's the real Clint Eastwood doing the voices. I think it's an impressionist, but he's pretty good. What makes this table rather unique is there's an actual cue ball on the playfield. At certain points you have to hit it full on, so it hits a small snooker cue above it, hitting an 8-ball into some targets. It's a bit of a western theme as well, which you would expect none less with Clint Eastwood. But I rather like this table. It's one of my favourites, one of the high points of Season 2. Quite a good bit of speech there, I would say. Nicely laid out, nicely and colourful. The second table is not quite as advanced as Cue Ball Wizard, of course, but it's good for historic value. It was Eldorado City of Gold. Not to get confused with that popular cartoon at the time, well, years ago, Cities of Gold with Esteban and Tao. Quite basic this one, but it's an interesting playfield. You've got some targets up the top you have to hit, and some targets at the right. As soon as you hit them all down, you get a multiplier, and then the whole thing starts all over again. Limited sounds. The table is a trapezoidal sort of shape, so it's a small sort of like wedge thing, but it's recreated quite well, and Farsight Studios have done a very good job again. Fantastic stuff. You know, I really think I should have taken some oxygen up here. Excellent. It's good to get off that mountain down to lower levels, but it's still snowing quite badly, and we're in, do you recognise it? It is St. Moritz. Yeah, glorious St. Moritz in Switzerland still. This is a really cool ski resort, and it's very popular with the rich jet set and me. It's the most expensive ski resort in the whole world. So if you're looking at budget travel, do not come to St. Moritz, because I think they charge about $2 for a sandwich, and I think if I stayed here for a fortnight, I could well starve to death. So let's have a look at the top 6 then against this glorious snowy background. I feel like I'm in a snow globe. Now this 2 weeks, there was no real standout brilliant game that stood amongst the rest. So it's a bit of a mismatch of an order, and I'll be very surprised if you got the order exactly the same as my personal preference. If you have, comment below, because it'd be a 1 in a zillion shot. And I wouldn't be surprised if the games I've got in 6th and 5th place you got in 1st and 2nd. But it's all about nostalgia and your personal experiences. So let's start then. In 6th place this time, on the PlayStation 1, it was Urban Chaos by Eidos in 2000. Now, although this game is graphically superior to a lot of the other games I've got further up, it is on the PlayStation and I think it should have known better really. It came out 4 years after the amazing original Tomb Raider and 3 years after Tomb Raider 2, so it's competing against those, and when you control your character moving around it just doesn't cut the mustard really. It's an exploration game, if you can get to the main city thing, where you play a female protagonist and you must solve various crimes and missions gradually going up. Now on the review I just stayed in the starting blocks really, and there was missions where you had to drive a police car around an obstacle course at a certain amount of time, but the car handled absolutely awful. The graphics are very jagged. Now I do bear in mind it is the year 2000 and the PlayStation capabilities, but I've seen much better examples at the sort of time, which maybe that means it's lazy coding. The presentation is quite good. On the menu screen there's some leaves floating across the screen, which I think is quite cool, but altogether it's not a very rewarding game, and that's why I had it in 6th place. There's not much replay value on it, and there's much better games of that genre a few years before, in the same era and since, so it really wipes the floor. A disappointing affair. In 5th place, another game that people might have in their top 3. It's all about James Bond. It's on the Game Boy Advance, and it was 007 NIGHTFIRE. Bang. It came in 5th place. It was a bit of a weak shooter, this, in the style of Doom. Came out in 2003 by Electronic Arts. It's an exploration game. You've got various missions. It's not based on any James Bond film that I'm aware of. Well, I am aware. I'm a big fan of Bond. But there's no film called NIGHTFIRE at the moment. Made in the sort of era of Pierce Brosnan, so it's trying to lean on that. But it's a little bit clumsy. The Game Boy Advance is doing well to recreate the 3D environment, but it's a bit unclear what you got to do, where you got to go. It's got the 007 James Bond theme track all the way through it, which makes it rather cool. But of course, in terms of the recording the review, had to turn that off because YouTube probably would have hit it for a copyright strike. So, you know, it's got bits working for it. It's not as good as Doom or Doom 2, in my opinion, on the Game Boy Advance. It's a sort of game that feels a bit unfinished. Could have been better, but maybe 5th's a bit cruel. But there you go, I'm a very cruel man. 5th place. I'm probably going to get charged in Samurai just for standing here. I'm going to get a bill off some sort of warden for about £1,000, I would imagine. So, before that happens, let's have a look at what was 4th. Again, I'm disappointed to give this one 4th because I like to mark up Spectrum games. But it was CYBERNOID by Houston Consultants in 1988. Yes, the glorious 80s, or near the end of that decade. This game could have easily have been number 1 in my roundup, but again what they've done, which happens on quite a lot of Spectrum games, is they've made it way too difficult. And I don't mean normal way too difficult when I say way too difficult, impossibly difficult. Houston Consultants did Exelon, of course, which I rated that as 1 in a previous roundup. It's got some similarities to that, but you control a ship which goes around various screens and you must get past various obstacles. But some of the timings are absolutely ridiculous to get your ship past. You can fire missiles, get power-ups. Graphically it looks absolutely stunning. I love the sound on it. It's just the playability leaves one into frustration. It's the sort of thing that make you smash a joystick against a wall, set fire to your own feet, or jump into a canal and drown. It's that sort of level of frustration, and that's why CYBERNOID clocks in 4th place. So let's just have a recap then, so you can do the first half, the bottom half, which you probably won't agree with, but you might do. In 6th place was Urban Chaos by Eidos in 2000 on the PlayStation 1. On 5th place, 007 NIGHTFIRE by Electronic Arts on the Game Boy Advance back in 2003. And in 4th place is CYBERNOID on the ZX Spectrum 48K by Houston Consultants in good old 1988. quite nice here, isn't it? We're in the north side of the Alps. This is Lake Geneva. It's between Switzerland and France. It's all on that border. They sort of like share it or something on some sort of caretaking scheme. Maybe we'll win the bid and put it in Hull at some point. But it's Lake Geneva. I think that's that castle back there is Chateau de Chillon, I think. One of the most visited castles in the whole of Europe. So a very picturesque area to do the top three. Very, very fitting. So in third place then, looking back at the top six, getting back on topic, which I occasionally do. In third place this time on the Commodore Amiga was Mortal Kombat, published by Virgin in 1993, based on the arcade cabinet, of course. Now this game's got good points and it's got bad points. There's a good game underneath it all, but the loading times are so long. I had to edit them down severely in the video, but when you get to the actual fighting, it's not so bad. The Commodore Amiga tended to struggle with fighting games because you just had one fire button to execute some of the moves. Really struggled on Street Fighter 2 and it didn't work. Mortal Kombat is a bit better. They've got it working quite well. It's not perfect by any means, and I'm sure we'll come to Mortal Kombat 2 at any point, but it was enough this 2 weeks at least to get it into third place. Sounds are good. The animation is quite good compared to other ones on the system. There are other versions of this game on our different systems that blow this completely away, but on the Commodore Amiga it's quite good fun. It plays quite well. If you're unaware of Mortal Kombat, this is the first one in the series, and it was to spawn loads, which are still going on the modern day consoles, and you can control characters in the latest ones at least, like the Predator and Aliens, but this first one, there's about 8 or so characters and it's quite basic, but it's got a good, nice retro feel to it. So in third place. In second place, this time round, was Lombard RAC Rally by Mandarin Software in 1988, I believe. So quite early in the Amiga's reign. This game, it might look pretty dodgy to you if you haven't got a retro hat on, which I have. But it reminds me a lot of Test Drive 2, the sort of animation there. You know, let's not get me wrong, it's not a very good game when you analyse everything, but things seem to come together with this and I absolutely love it. It makes me feel like a kid again driving this. The frame rate isn't brilliant and it feels like you're driving the car from the back seat and there's no way to change the view, but it works quite well. I do feel like I'm in control of the car when driving it. You've got multiple stages, you've got exotic locations like Harrogate and Telford. I'll tell you what, you're never going to see, this is no bad thing against Harrogate and Telford, but you'll never see Harrogate and Telford in the background of one of these roundups unless it's like I'm at 185 and I've run out of locations. But Lombard RAC Rally is quite good fun, although my version did seem to crash a few times and I had to reload it, but I bet the normal version doesn't. It's probably old wear and tear or dodgy system or something. But there we go, quite a good game, I recommend that. So what's in first place this time? Well, it's quite fortunate because in other 2 weeks roundups this may not have won, but it's deserved this time, I think, because it's Strider 2 on the ZX Spectrum, published by US Gold in 1990. Now on the previous roundup I had the original Strider in 6th place last. Now this is why this one's come first, because I do like it when they look at a game and think, yeah, we've messed up here, let's make it better. The original Strider was all monochrome, the frame rate was quite bad. Now Strider 2, bear in mind it's a 48K Spectrum, they managed to get colour in it. So that was obviously a problem with the first one, so they've had to be a bit genius there. The frame rate, although it isn't brilliant, Spectrum standards, it improves over the first one and it works. The levels are bigger, it's less glitchy. So I quite enjoyed this one, Strider 2. I'll probably never ever complete it, but as I say, I do admire it when they go back to a game, see what's wrong, analyse it and come back to it. I'm not sure this was a big hit at the time. I know Strider 1 was in the arcades, not quite sure about Strider 2. We'll probably come to this one on the Commodore Amiga at some stage as well. So just recapping then before we leave Lake Geneva a long way behind. In third place was Mortal Kombat on the Commodore Amiga by Virgin in 1993. Second place, Lombard RAC Rally by Mandarin Software in 1983. And Strider was Glorious One in first place. Strider 2 by US Gold in 1990. Yes, so that has been the roundup from lovely Switzerland. As you can tell, it was a very mountainous country. I think I've been there once as a kid, but not for a long time. I think I'll need to go back. I've got the Swiss flag behind me. It looks like an inverse of the red cross flag, isn't it? I don't know which one come first. But anyway, I hope you like watching the videos this time round, whether you watch all of them or just some of them. It's always appreciated, especially you people that comment. So thank you once again. Here's to the next 2 weeks, and who knows what country we'll end up in next time. So take care of yourself and have a great weekend. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.